Good evening. Welcome to the Read Down. We are your weekly progressive political hot take from the Stonewall Democratic Club. And on tonight's episode, we'll be reading down Trump's love of violence, Joe Biden setting the record straight on Joe Biden, and opening the library to read the GOP for filth while giving you the rundown on all the latest 2020 developments. My name is Jonathan Welch, and I am your moderator tonight. I'm joined by my fellow co-hosts, Ebony Murphy-Root.
Hello.
And hello. And Alex Mohajer.
Hello, everybody. Good to be here. Good to see you.
And we have our special guest all the way from New York. She is a comedian and a podcaster herself. Please welcome Selena Coppock.
Hello. I'm excited to be here.
It's so good to have you. So I just spilled, and in honor of Selena being here, listen, she's a fellow Bostonian. We both are sporting our Joe Biden beer koozies.
Yes.
I have a young Biden, okay? And I just spilled my drink all over my shirt, but I don't think you can see it. So I think that's great. So you know what? We're ready to get started, and I feel like we can actually start talking about the issues of the day. So I want to start with, and look at that. We've got
Perrier this evening.
Yes, we have a classy selection.
Perrier does not sponsor our program, but it should.
Maybe.
Maybe they can. Dreams can come true. And Ebony, are you drinking tea?
I've got a little water, nice cold water, but a new mug. So
Beautiful mug.
Ebony is a teacher, so she doesn't drink.
That's true. And also teachers have an abundance of really great mugs. So
This is true.
yeah. So
I'm gonna bring you an apple the next time I see you, Ebony. Just because.
There you go. I'll bring you a whole fruit basket like a Christmas story. Okay, let's get into what's going on this week with some big Democratic energy. And for the big Democratic energy segment, I am going to talk about something that we are doing here at the Stonewall Democratic Club. We are extremely excited because today we launched our National Vote at Home initiative. It's super exciting. I'm going to kick it over to Alex for a second and talk about it because he didn't know that I was going to do that. But we were co-executive producers on this project where we're highlighting 16 states. So Alex, tell us a little bit more about this.
Well, look, we are in a global pandemic, and the Trump administration has led efforts to slow down postal service during a time where people are going to need to be voting by mail, and using debunked claims that voter fraud is promoted in systems where vote by mail happens, which is blatantly false. The studies have been done and shown on this. And so we think that lack of information should not be a reason that people are prohibited from voting in a time where the Republican Party would like to prohibit you, as many people as voting as possible, because they know when we vote, we win. So we have launched the National Vote at Home initiative. We are targeting 16 battleground states and states with potential Senate pickups for Democrats, with vote by mail protocols and registration deadlines targeted to those states. And we've got an amazing roster of celebrities and influencers and journalists who are doing these videos for us. Today was launched by Deborah Messing with a video for Michigan, for Michiganders. And look out for it every single day, one video a day now through September 16th. So you can learn more about the National Vote at Home initiative, or check out the video of the day, or just explore and find out about your registration and vote by mail options in your state at stonewall.vote.
So excited. Thank you. That was perfect. What a perfect pitch. And you know what, to highlight kind of what the cadence of these videos are, I have a little clip from Deborah's video that we released today.
Hey, Michigan. Hey, Michigan. My name is Deborah Messing, and I'm so proud to have adopted your state ahead of the November election. I think we can all agree that 2020 will be the most important election, well, in my lifetime. There's a lot at stake, and it is also happening at the same time as a global pandemic. But there is a safe, easy way to avoid the lines, practice social distancing, and vote at home. Michigan is voting. We're projecting a record turnout, and every single vote matters. But there's been a lot of confusion about how to vote by mail, and I'm here to help clear it up.
Clear it up for us, Deb.
Come on, go ahead, Grace. Tell us everything you know. Listen,
Come on,
cheers.
Grace.
Cheers to Deborah.
To Deborah, who has been, by the way, such an ally and a friend and a champion of this organization. She tweeted us today. She was so game to help and has just been such she's such, over the years in different activist circles, she's been such a team player, and she really is just down to help. And Jonathan knows, during the course of this project, which has been like 2 months in the running, we pitched a lot of people, and there were some big names attached to them, and we won't out them, but they backed out and they were difficult. And Deborah Messing was literally one of the first to sign on, and just as she is an ally to our community and to this fight. So thank you, Deborah. And if you want to check her out, stonewall.vote/Michigan for the full video.
That's right. And so we couldn't think of a better person to headline our efforts, because she really was wonderful the whole time. And it highlights something that I want to talk about before we get into what's going on in the news. And that is, of course, that we know that there are delays in the Postal Service. We know that that Trump is throwing every chaotic, shitty thing against the wall just to see what's going to stick in order to suppress votes. So the Vote at Home initiative is helping people to figure out what their voting plan is. So a very important thing to think about is, if you are planning to vote by mail, think about what your plan B may be. Take a look at what's going on in your state. Take a look at what's going on in your municipality or your county, whoever is overseeing the election, and make what that plan is going to be for you. So for me personally, I will be getting my ballot in the mail like most Californians do. And if I don't receive it in the mail by October 20th, which is when we should be mailing these back, I am going to plan to early vote at Dodger Stadium, which is going to be a polling location. So very cool. Yeah, very cool that the MLB is doing that. Also, all NBA arenas were announced last week that they will also be polling locations throughout the country.
Jonathan, do we want to tease some of the people that are coming up on this project? Or
you know
do we
what?
want it to be a
Why
surprise?
not? Why don't we just like
public? We've got Daniel Newman from The Walking Dead, who's doing a Georgia video for us. Who else we got, Daniel? Let's just go back and forth.
Yeah, we have Nina West, the drag queen who won Miss Congeniality in last season of RuPaul's Drag Race. She's going to be doing her beloved home state of Ohio.
We've got Linda Carter, the original Wonder Woman. Hello, doing the state of Arizona. Pretty brills.
We do. We also have activists like Fred Gutenberg, who lost his daughter Jamie in Parkland, and he has been doing amazing work around gun reform in the country. He went over to shake Brett Kavanaugh's hand. Brett Kavanaugh was like, like ran away.
And cried like he normally does.
Yeah, fuck Kavanaugh, but
Brett Kavanaugh.
Fred was amazing. He was also another one of those people who was just like right on it and couldn't wait to do it and sent us the video early. So, yeah.
It's a great roster. Check it out. Stonewall.vote.
Yes, ma'am. So that's another listen. And we're just gonna keep like patting ourselves on the back because it was a lot of work. But we're really excited. We're excited about it. But let's move on. Let's talk about.
Sorry, can I just say I closed my laptop on I think it was Monday night when we were finally done, and I looked at my friend Kat and I was just like, I think I'm done for the night, and I cried because it's been such an enormous. But we're really proud of it, and really proud of everyone who helped out with it. Our whole comms team, people that are watching this: Mackenzie Usman, Ryan Basham, Chris Ford, Daniel Fusselman, Dustin Gullidge, Nick Knudsen of Demcast. Just a pretty brilliant team of people to be working with. So thanks, guys.
Great work. Yeah. Get off the boat.
Thank you. Yes. Listen, if whatever's going to help, right? You know, like if you're helping, and this is something to also talk about as people are trying to figure out like what to do, because I've had a lot of conversations around like I need to do something to help and I don't know exactly what to do. If you are doing anything to help at least one or two people to vote who weren't really sure what they were doing before, then you are doing the work. That's exactly what it is. You know, it came down to, as Michelle Obama said, 2 people per precinct in those states that swayed the election to Donald Trump. If everybody just kind of reached out to their networks and mentioned like what we need to do in order to create a voting plan, then we are going to be much better off. So excited about that. Not so excited about the RNC, which made last week feel like it was about 3 months long. I don't know if you guys watched it, but I want to get your takes on it in a second. And let me just tell you, it didn't go well. I watched Rachel Maddow on Friday night, and I'm actually very glad I did, because it gave me the perspective that the RNC was just such a disaster. And part of it was communication breakdown. So one of the first things that we want to talk about is that the Hatch Act, which makes using your position in government and governmental property for profit and for nefarious means completely illegal, was basically trampled all over, and Trump wiped his ass with it. So it was, which is a disgusting, I don't know why I just said that, but listen, it was a terrible, that was a terrible image, but it was a terrible thing. So I want to start with getting over to Ebony, because we want to talk about how the RNC went wrong. Did you watch? What are your takeaways?
It was like a car accident. I could not look away, so I watched most nights. And what was most disturbing to me was the role of Ivanka. I don't know if she thinks she's America's princess. I don't know if she thinks she's the vice president or the first lady. And why is she smiling while our country has thousands of people dying every day? I think she just lacks total awareness of how she comes off to middle America. I think she perceives herself to be beloved by everyone. But she's horrid and despicable, and her constant adoration of her father is gross. So that was what was most disgusting for me, watching Ivanka smile while America burns, our own little Nero.
Did you feel as though Tiffany added anything to the conversation?
Poor Tiffany. I can just never say anything bad about
Poor
her.
Tiff.
It was terrible for her. She was
Leave Tiffany alone.
Heart for everyone. I just poor dear, poor Marla Maples' little girl.
Tiffany's been through so much. Poor billionaire Tiffany.
I just remember the episode of Designing Women where Marla Maples came in and convinced I can't remember who. I think she tried to convince Allison. This was when Julia Duffy joined the cast to take her ex for everything she had. Anyway, listen, we're getting off topic. I've had 4 sips of this White Claw. Yeah, I've had 4 sips of this White Claw knockoff, and let me tell you, it's going to be a wild ride from now till 7 p.m. So, Selena, did you watch the RNC? How do you feel?
I really actively attempted to avoid it because I just, for my own sanity, I was like, I can't tune in. But of course, like I'm on Twitter a lot during the day, and I saw clips here and there. Tiffany Trump, she's just such a sad character because she's sort of like a redheaded stepchild, which I know is like such a terrible dated phrase, but she's a redheaded stepchild with like terrible blonde roots, with blonde hair. Like her blonde is so dry. Like, I want someone to give her conditioner so badly, but that's not the point. What I found to be the most upsetting, were in the part of the violations of the Hatch Act were the naturalization ceremony and the women who live in NYCHA housing in New York City who were really used by the Trump administration. It's just so sad to me that, a lot of these residents who live in NYCHA housing here in New York they were asked to complain about or asked to comment on the housing situation in New York. And admittedly, a lot of these buildings are in disrepair. There are issues with de Blasio. Like, I totally get it. But these women, they were used as pawns for the Trump campaign. And the Times has had some really good coverage of these women saying, like, I had no idea what that was going to be used for. And, the naturalization ceremony, like, that is such a powerful and meaningful ceremony for new Americans. And the level of cynicism to exploit people and not have them even know that you're basically Republican propaganda, like, it's so shameful. I find it really just beyond the pale. And just when you think the Trump administration can't be this shameless, they're even more shameless,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Alex.
Always.
Basically, I buckled down and I watched the RNC because I had to for another project that I work on. And I have to tell you, I did it with gritted teeth. My sphincter was tightened so hard I could have made a diamond out of it. Because look, It's lies and propaganda. And then, all of us on our side are like, the Hatch Act. And I just know, like, fuck, of course, yes, the Hatch Act was violated. And I know nobody gives a shit. And the Trump administration is going to violate ethical rules? How dare you? Of course they are. And of course they don't give a fuck. And of course they have the attorney general and every a body that would oversee this, controlled by Republicans. We're powerless. Get over it. The Hatch Act was violated. Yes, it's unethical. Got to buckle down and get ready to vote. If you're unhappy with it, just show up and vote. I hope you've registered. IWillVote.com, Stonewall.vote, because it's unnerving to hear such propaganda being spewed at us, and the brilliance. I mean, the gall to be painting the destruction and violence as Joe Biden's America, as if Donald Trump is not president, which we will touch on, I guess, later. Sorry to jump ahead, but that's going to be and Tiffany Trump, poor Tiffany, feels about it.
Listen, I'm glad that you brought that up, though, Alex, because I think when we do talk about it, on the Democratic side, we tend to be very ethical and moral, and we get into the weeds on things. But like the basic crux of the whole thing is like the RNC was illegal. Like they created an illegal event, the end, right? Yep. And of course, everything down to Marines opening the doors for him. The naturalization ceremony clearly was pandering. And then, of course, he commuted the sentence of Alice Johnson, and then later, the day after, completely pardoned her. And of course, this woman who was involved in a cocaine trafficking ring 25 years ago, something like, it was a while ago. And she certainly, it's wonderful that this is being resolved, that she should not be in prison for that long for this crime, or if at all. But at the same time, it's very clear that she was being used as a political tool. And of course, she fought back saying that she wasn't, but she's really a defender of Trump because, of course, she owes him something now, and it's quite unfortunate that that situation was even created in the first place, right? So, guys, the RNC, we got through it. And I thought it was bad when Clint Eastwood was talking to an empty chair 8 years ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder if is he still alive? He's still alive.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Jonathan.
What?
Come on. Poor Clint. He was talking to chairs. That's the Republican Party. They're just talking to empty chairs. That's a perfect analogy. Yeah. And you know what? Kanye West, before he was like shitbag Kanye West, one of the coolest things he ever did was when Hurricane Katrina happened. He said, George Bush doesn't care about black people. Let me tell you. And I am not black, obviously. However, let me just, if I may, speak for all of us when I say Donald Trump does not give two shits about black people. The idea that he's a pro-black president is appalling. That he's he's done more for black people than any other president in history it's hilarious. Yeah. It's absolutely hilarious. And let's go through the roster: Lyndon B. Johnson, Harry Truman, Abraham Lincoln, the first black president, Barack Obama, who, by the way, Donald Trump spent years trying to convince you that he wasn't even born in this country to impugn his presidency. And the Central Park Five, who he tried to have executed, the fact that he was sued 2 times by the Department of Justice for racial discrimination. The man is a flagrant, the people at Charlottesville, the white nationalists are very fine people. I exhaled that without even doing a single Google search, and I'm sure that the list is much longer. Donald Trump doesn't care about black people, and the fact that he was charading around people of color that he has helped as being evidence, and that he probably helped to further his electability as evidence of how pro-black he is mind-numbingly stupid. I wish I could be having a White Claw with you, but I can't.
Well, that was really the entirety of night one. If we remember, it was basically
just night one.
Just night one. That was like, but
50% black folks. The Republican Party is not 50% black folks. I saw so many black folks up there. That was really quite amazing. And it's really meant to. That's not meant for us, right? That's meant for Republican voters to feel better about voting for them. And
exactly.
they really pulled out some folks. It was
Well, Ebony, there was that the presidential candidate for the Republican Party, Herman Cain, who is black,
Yes.
and
not a mention of
right.
God.
No.
I've got to say, the death of Herman Cain really, like that day, it really hurt my heart because I think there is nothing sadder than a self-made black man dying of a pandemic that was mismanaged by a trust fund white guy, and he dies from supporting this trust fund white guy. Like, it's just so tragic to me that Herman Cain died supporting a white man who he would spit on his body in the street. It's just so tragic, so tragic.
Oh, well, and then Herman Cain's Twitter account is tweeting
From the grave.
Yeah. Happy
Rhetoric.
Halloween season, everybody. Like, I'm sorry to make it. I don't want to make fun of it because it is horrible. But it's horrible.
The tweets are anti-mask, like conspiracy tweets. And I'm like, the dude is A, dead, and B, died from coronavirus because he didn't wear a mask at a Trump event. And by the way, Herman Cain was entirely absent of any mention at the RNC, which is,
How shameful.
it's
awful.
It's unfortunate, and that's what it is.
And also, Trump's brother passed away a couple of weeks ago, and there's a lot of talk on Twitter of him potentially having died from COVID-19, and that hasn't been confirmed. There's some medical stuff that's been going on this week as well that I didn't have on our outline, but I do want to touch on it for a second because here we go, because it was said that Donald Trump suffered from a cerebral event or a series of small cerebral events and was brought to Walter Reed. Now, nothing has been completely confirmed. Of course, the Trump campaign and the White House are denying that anything happened, but there's a lot of evidence to point to Donald Trump having had a series of small strokes. And, it comes down to him using two hands to lift up his water, among other things. It is it's something that I don't think we'll know the answer to anytime, in the near future. And for some reason, Siri just went off on my phone. So I'm going to take care of that. And I also, getting off the subject of Donald Trump and his mini strokes.
He had a stroke.
He had a stroke. I know.
Not rocket science. Look how he's walking.
It's so clear.
Today he denied having a stroke when nobody even asked.
Oh, and when he did the person, TV, human, woman, that's the type of test you do after you have a stroke.
So many.
Look, the evidence is there. The way he drags his foot, the way his hand moves.
He can't walk down a ramp. Without
which is
help.
And have you noticed that Joe Biden, every chance he gets, is running up a flight of stairs?
Yes.
Rebecca Murphy is commenting, perhaps these cerebral events will improve his cognitive functions.
True.
Yeah. But like we just said, when you think it can't get any worse, it actually can. Yeah. So, it could definitely get worse. And we've noticed this for months. Like I was saying with the water thing, that was incredibly peculiar. He trips over his words. He's constantly making words up, and his train of thought is going in different places. So this is a man who's fundamentally unwell. And, that's one thing that I think the Democrats really need to talk about, because he, of course, exploited Hillary Clinton in 2016 when she had pneumonia, for fuck's sake, it was, and said all this other shit that she was cognitively not there. And clearly the woman is one of the most brilliant people alive now.
Yeah. Well, and Jonathan, then the media is to blame as well. They put her on Hillary watch when she had pneumonia. Hillary has just left Chelsea's apartment in New York City. Is she well? It's shut up.
Yeah.
She had pneumonia.
Is she meeting her grandkids?
Jesus.
Probably. Yeah, I know. She had pneumonia because the schedule to run for office is breakneck. It is such an intense schedule. And it's also, during the primary, I thought it was really irresponsible when people were insinuating that Biden was too old and that he didn't have fully his wits about him, because I just found that to be very irresponsible for Biden, because I think Biden looks great. He gives great speeches. He proves it wrong every time he gets behind the microphone.
Yeah, it's true. Joe Biden is, I mean, he's incredible. My favorite thing was him after Fox News talking about how he was like old and weak and like in decline. The Fox News reporter went to Delaware before he picked Kamala Harris, and like and Biden like whizzed by him on a bike. and they're like, Mr. Vice President, who have you chosen a running mate yet? And like with his aviators on, just like cool as shit, flies by him and he goes, yeah, you, and then like whizzes by, just like flies by the guy. And it's like, you just proved yourselves wrong, by having him on. Listen.
Yeah, that is so funny. I mean, and that's one thing I really like about him. Like, I like that he's like, and even when he will misspeak, he'll always be like, oh, I was being a wise guy. Okay. Like,
no
he's
malarkey.
He's just exactly malarkey. Like, I don't know. I like that he's he'll make silly comments, or like when someone was yelling at him just the other day, and he was like, don't jump. Like, he was sort of making fun of the guy to his face, which I find delicious.
That's Scranton edge. I like it.
Yeah.
I have to say that people have said like, oh God, the debates. I cannot wait for the debates because we know that, like, come on. We know, first of all, that Donald Trump is in cognitive decline. We know that he has had these cerebral events. We know that he can't answer for the things that he's done. And Biden has done a phenomenal job, right? So I want to move over because actually one of the things that Biden did this week was yesterday, he delivered a speech in Pittsburgh that touched on exactly where we are with Donald Trump's presidency. And I think we have a clip from that.
This is a sitting president of the United States of America. He's supposed to be protecting this country, but instead he's rooting for chaos and violence. The simple truth is, Donald Trump failed to protect America. So now he's trying to scare America. Since Donald Trump and Mike Pence can't run on the record that has seen more American deaths to this virus, than the nation suffered in every war since Korea combined. The violence we're seeing in Donald Trump's America. These are not images of some imagined Joe Biden America in the future. These are images of Donald Trump's America today. He keeps telling you, if only he was president, it wouldn't happen. If he was president, he keeps telling us that he was president, you'd feel safe. Well, he is president, whether he knows it or not.
He is president.
Tell it, Joe.
He is. I don't even know where to begin. I'm gonna give it. Let's go over to Ebony. Tell me.
This is Trump's America, right? Trump projects like no other. So this is his presidency that we're living in. And yet he tries to convince us that we're living in someone else's presidency. So Biden just needs to keep telling it like it is. He needs to send Senator Harris out there to tell it like it is, and just keep reminding us of what is true. That's all he needs to do, is tell us the truth over and over and over again. This is Trump's country. This is Trump's racial reconciliation. This is Trump's policies. That's all he needs to do.
And I've seen stuff on Twitter. I'm glad that you brought Senator Harris up because, of course, like, we love hearing from Senator Harris. But whenever she's giving a speech, and she has given speeches in the past few days as well, there was one notable speech that she gave after the RNC was over, and or during, I think, the RNC, as kind of a rebuttal to what was going on. And people. Yeah. And so people are like, well, where's Joe Biden? And it's like, I'm so sorry. I think that she's also on this ticket. We can hear from her. And also, you're making a huge deal out of whoever the vice president's going to be because he's 78. So listen, I think we can hear from Kamala Harris a time or two.
And we heard from her yesterday on the Brandy versus Monica event.
I have no idea about this.
Oh my gosh, it was amazing. Yeah. So that was definitely reaching, the Gen X or older millennial demographic, of which I am a part. All of a sudden, my socials blew up with folks. So that was a good move. That was meant to appeal to all the young folks.
Is this on like The Boy Is Mine?
Yeah, well, that's where they have like a rivalry, but that's where, so didn't they go, Ebony, did they go song for song in like a long format?
And then right there in the middle, Senator Harris popped up, and then, hashtags aplenty.
Yeah.
Hashtags aplenty.
if Kamala Harris, first of all, Kamala Harris knows a lot of things about a lot of stuff. Okay. She's an amazing cook.
Yes.
We know this. She helped Senator Mark Warner, who made like a wet tuna sandwich. During quarantine, he's like, "Here's my tuna sandwich," and he just like dumps a can of wet tuna onto like a piece of white bread. And Kamala was like, "Hi, can I help you?" Like,
I love how it was very like not confrontational, but she's like, "Hello, we need to solve this problem. I'll meet with you." And then they had an Instagram thing where they just she taught him how to make a tuna sandwich.
Because she is a fantastic cook. She also has excellent taste in music, and we know this from when she was running for president. And she had a playlist, and her campaign song was "One Nation Under a Groove." I mean, like,
well,
that was her campaign song. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I want to shout out a group right now while we're on this topic. They are the Be a Poll Hero. They're a group of Gen Zers. They're like teenagers and college students who have started a group called Be a Poll Hero, I think. And they're trying to get people recruited, young people, to work polls on election day because there's a shortage. And they're doing it by doing a play on WAP, work a poll. And so shout out to Be a Poll Hero. You guys are right.
Oh, yeah, their Twitter is Poll Hero Project.
Yes. Poll Hero Project at Poll Hero Project.
Yeah.
And
save us, please.
And you know what? Actually, I'm so glad you brought that up because today is September 1st, which is National Poll Worker Recruitment Day. So this is a day in which you're seeing it kind of all over social media. And that's another way that like you guys can help. So if you're able to do it, do it. If you haven't done it already, you can sign up through your state secretary of state or Commonwealth and get yourselves to work those polls because we're young, we're healthy, we can do it. It's usually manned by elderly people who are definitely at risk and don't want to go out and work.
Sir. I worked a poll. Oh my God. I worked the polls in the March primary here in California. I worked them hard. And it was all young people. It was 18-year-olds who did it with me. So
that's incredible. Yeah. Yeah. So we're definitely seeing some change there, and it's very exciting. So we have a lot of things to celebrate. We have a lot of things to touch on before we get into our big read down. But I do want to offer a little update on a primary that's happening in my home state, Selena's home state. We are watching like crazy because Senator Ed Markey, who's the most progressive senator serving right now in the United States Senate, has been primaried by RFK's grandson, Joe Kennedy III, as of right now, with 18% of the precincts reporting Markey is in the lead, 56-44. So this is a pretty significant, about a 30,000 vote lead as of right now. I taught my auntie Linda from Saugus, Massachusetts, called me today, and she's like, "I don't know. I think Kennedy's gonna win." So I was like,
if Kennedy loses this race, he will be the first Kennedy to lose a statewide race, I think, ever. Don't quote me on that. I think ever, but Ed Markey is the far better choice, which is pretty ironic given that he's a septuagenarian, but he's the progressive choice. He has spearheaded all of the major progressive bills in Congress. He's a hero, and show up and vote for him.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate Kennedy's, tenacity and energy, but I just really wish he'd gone about this in a better way, and I'm not advocating for like backdoor deals, but Ed Markey is a great guy. He still wants to have this job. He has great seniority. He's able to push things through because of that seniority. I mean, he's, a part of the Green New Deal. And I just think that it would have been so much smarter if Kennedy had kind of like hung back, made friends. And I wonder if the next time Markey is up for re-election, if he'd be like, well, this is when I will retire, and sort of pass the baton in a more graceful way. I just felt like Kennedy really played this wrong.
Absolutely. And I can say,
yeah.
Sorry, what was that, Ebony?
There's something to be said for deference, and I think he made the wrong move. I just wonder who was advising him. He could have waited, just a tad.
Yeah.
And I think it's also interesting. We have Dahlia saying, how do we feel about Pelosi's alleged double standard on debating incumbents? So essentially, Pelosi endorsed Joe Kennedy over Ed Markey. I was very surprised by that.
I know. I was too. And I do think that it's ended up being sort of a strange bedfellow situation where a lot of those super progressives who were like, get rid of the oldies are backing Ed Markey. I mean, it's funny sort of how things work out. But yeah, I agree with Rebecca here. I think Kennedy coming for Markey, and it got really dirty. Like that whole fight got really, I mean, it was unfortunate.
Listen, I have a T-shirt that I cut into like just a meathead gym tank that says from the Markey campaign, "Tell your father," because like that was what Markey was yelling at Kennedy during the debates. He's like, "Tell your father to stop running the ads against me."
Oh
and,
my God.
And so Ed Mackey, I have to say it that way, Ed Mackey.
Oh yeah, you legally gotta go to the Stop and Shop, get lobster and Chardonnay, and vote for Mackey. Okay, thanks, kid. Thanks, kid.
Vote for Mackey, kid. If I'm going to see you at O'Brien's in Somerville on Saturday, then I need to make sure that you voted for Mackey. But anyway, so, but one of the things, if we're going to talk about like, Ed Markey and Joe Kennedy and what happened with Joe Kennedy, I think that one of the concerns is that if he did wait, then he would be facing people like Ayanna Pressley.
Oh,
No luck there. You're screwed.
yeah.
Yeah, forget it. Like Ayanna, Catherine Clark, who took Markey's seat in the House, who's another powerhouse congresswoman from Massachusetts. So like, some of these stars in Massachusetts who very easily could just like blow past Kennedy.
Like I just got chills at the idea of the senators from Massachusetts being Elizabeth Warren and Ayanna Pressley.
I can't.
Like that's some dream shit right there.
Yeah.
Put that on my vision board. Yeah.
What I will say is if Joe Kennedy,
secret, Jonathan, keep it a secret.
Keep it a secret. Well, I do have an idea. Joe Kennedy could run for governor of Massachusetts because Massachusetts has a Republican governor, Charlie Baker, for in his second term. So
that's fine. We'll take him. It's fine.
Go ahead. Run for that. So let's get. I want tell your father that now. It's time for the weekly read down, where we're going to get really deep into the biggest topic of conversation. So as light as it has been to talk about Massachusetts politics with our accents, we are going to go into what's going on in the country right now, which is Trump instigating just mass chaos. He's not denouncing anything that's happening. He is he's creating crazy conspiracy theories. I have a quote. He had an interview earlier with Laura Ingraham, which was even a little bonkers for Laura Ingraham and for her taste, in which Trump alleged that there was a group of thugs on a plane saying, and I quote, "We had somebody get on a plane from a certain city this weekend, and in the plane, it was almost completely loaded with thugs wearing these dark uniforms, black uniforms with gear, and this and that. They're on a plane." This sounds like somebody who definitely hasn't had a stroke. Now,
there are snakes on the motherfucking plane.
Snakes on the motherfucking plane. And so on top of that, he has defended Kyle Rittenhouse, who is the 17-year-old Illinois teen who drove with his mother over state lines with semi-automatic weapons and showed up at a Kenosha, Wisconsin protest following the shooting of Jacob Blake and killed 2 people. Autopsy results have shown that one of the victims that Rittenhouse shot was shot in the back, meaning that he was running away from Rittenhouse. And Trump said that it was self-defense. So, I think that we're seeing a lot going on in Portland. We're seeing things going on in Kenosha. He visited Kenosha today. I want to get your take on just what is happening right now with Donald Trump and his narrative.
Bonkers. This is really unbelievable that this is where we are. This is lower than Pizzagate. He is just allowed to say anything, tell these crazy conspiracy theories, and people will believe him. The great thing is, QAnon now is where the Tea Party was, and I think they have the propensity to be much worse. People are really listening to him, to these wild deals, and no one's stopping him. We really need to do something about it right now, because we know what happened with Pizzagate, with the shooting, and I think a lot more people are going to get hurt if we don't put a stop to his wild conspiracy theories. Where's Pence? Where's Kellyanne Conway? Where's Ivanka? who's going to save us from these wild, bonkers theories. Hillary today did say it was nuts, but she's not in office. We need office holders to.
Yeah, I think we need Republican office holders, and that's kind of where the difference lies right now. Is that we're getting a lot of Democrats who have things to say about it, and it's no surprise. But Republican office holders need to really speak up.
Look, here's the deal. Kyle Rittenhouse is a vigilante who was radicalized by far-right extremist language coming straight from Donald Trump. He's a Donald Trump supporter. He was at front row at a Donald Trump rally in Des Moines, Iowa in January. He showed up armed with an AR-15 at a protest he had no business being at. He claims he was there to protect property. He was there to instigate chaos, just the way the president is instructing him to by claiming that these cities are being overrun by mobs and they're coming for your liberty and Democrats are coming to take away your liberty and it's descending into chaos. This is what happens when the president uses alarmist, fear-mongering language and people who are radicalized by that language show up. The same thing happened at a media room, at a newsroom a couple years ago after Trump was calling the media the enemy of the people. A newsroom got shot up. Is this any surprise? Kyle Rittenhouse deserves to be thrown away. And for such a young person, it's really sad, but let it be an example. And the people showing up with guns, armed militia, like vigilante militia at the Michigan State House when Governor Whitmer was trying to pass a mask policy, threatening to kill her. The president is silent on these things because it's not politically expedient for him to reference it. So he wants to talk about this carnage that he is stoking, inciting, and making worse so that he can depict this as being a Democratic problem. But it's bullshit. People are going to die because of it. And I am really sick and tired of Donald Trump. I'm sick and tired. Got to tell him.
Yeah, well, listen, I'm glad you brought this up that, or just basically let's call it what it is here. Like Kyle Rittenhouse can be 17 years old, but he was out for blood. That condition doesn't get better over time. That does not go away. So when you are a child, when you are a teenager, you are almost an adult, and you end up going out for blood with a semi-automatic weapon strapped to your body, like you are there to kill. He was there to kill. He felt emboldened to do that by Donald Trump, but also by his mother, who felt emboldened by
should
Donald
go away
Trump.
too. Shame on her.
Yes, she should.
She should go to prison. And you know what? Can I just say, Jonathan, the president defending Kyle Rittenhouse is atrocious. And having him say he was in real big trouble, he was trying to defend himself. He had an AR fucking 15. He didn't need any help defending himself. He was not in trouble. He had a semi-automatic weapon and he used it. It is absurd to suggest that he was in trouble and needed defense at all. People don't get shot in the back because they're on offense.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he traveled and went there looking for a fight. I mean, I sometimes think about the way that for a guy like him, this is almost like a fantasy play out. Like he's some brave guy. He's sort of defending liberty somehow. And it's like, no, all of these protests are predominantly totally safe. They are marches. I've been in New York, and it's a really powerful and peaceful gesture. And this guy came in with a gun. And I mean, there's footage of, he was like, a guy attacked him with a skateboard. I'm sorry, the response to a skateboard isn't a gun to the head. Like, it is just, and I know I should never be surprised by how irresponsible Trump is, but I sometimes can't. It just hurts my heart the way he's willing to just, mess with what's actually happening and, reduce things into these talking points and all this bad faith bullshit. And it's so irresponsible. And yeah, you're creating murderers who will go out and, two people, Kyle Rittenhouse killed two people who were there just to affirm that Black Lives Matter. And they were murdered by a kid who went there simply looking for a fight and wanted out for blood.
In fact, the only people that got murdered in Kenosha, Wisconsin were Black Lives Matter protesters.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only people who died.
God.
So
Yeah. And there was also in Portland, a conservative protester was killed as well. So I kind of feel like if
who
we're
showed
looking
up
at this,
and was macing people and paintballing them and
Yep.
there to instigate violence again. Now, I'm not excusing that violence. This violence is wrong on both sides. But what I am saying is that these right-wing extremist groups have been identified. The Boogaloo Boys, the Patriot Prayers, they are showing up to instigate this violence. They've been doing it since the beginning, since George Floyd. They've been doing this since George Floyd, showing up at Black Lives Matter protests, instigating violence so that then the conservative news media can say, look, chaos and violence in American democratic cities.
yeah.
Wake
But
up,
also-
America. It's an epic case of rat fucking. So please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is giving the right wing, these groups ammunition, that one person died. And, granted, they're going into battle here is how they're looking at it. And it's like, if you're going to approach things that way while people are peacefully protesting, then like for you to feel vengeful isn't necessarily the correct response. People who are being peaceful protesters are not asking to be killed. People who are not carrying the AR-15s, who are not macing people and nobody is doing anything physically assertive in order to get killed on our side. And as far as looting and rioting go, which is something that I think a lot of these conversations go in that direction, let's also be clear that a lot of right-wing white nationalist groups are the ones who are spearheading those efforts as well.
Yep, 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, there was some video footage of Kyle Rittenhouse speaking with an interviewer at in Kenosha, and he literally says, he's like, my job is to protect this gas station. And in my head, I was like, your job is nothing. Your job is to
go to school.
Exactly. If you disagree with these people, with the politics of Black Lives Matter, stay away. You don't have to be here. You have no job here. It's just such a bizarre grasp for relevancy and to defend a gas station. Are you kidding me? These corporations are so wealthy. Trust me, this gas station will be fine.
No.
Not my gas station. Kyle Rittenhouse, fuck you and the mother that bore you.
Yeah.
Quite actually. Absolutely horrible people. I just feel as though something that we need to be very aware of is the level of violence that is happening, that could potentially happen if Trump, which we are working very hard to make sure Trump loses the election, if Trump loses the election, and not to give fear to anybody, but I just think that it's something that we need to be aware of that is coming down the line, and it's going to be a very difficult few months. So it's already a very difficult year, but it just keeps getting darker.
And I'll note there was another officer-related killing of a black man last night in Los Angeles in South LA. Guy was shot in the back again. And so let's be clear that these protests are about a system of racial inequity and racial killings of people of color and police brutality, a systemic problem, people being murdered. They are being murdered because of the color of their skin. And if I can't know what that experience is, but I can sure know that I don't know what that experience is, and that it must feel pretty rotten to be killed just merely for who I am. And me and Jonathan do know something, a little something about, well, not personally, but our people being targeted and attacked and killed because of who they are. And that's what the namesake of the organization that we are a part of was born from, was from riots to contest, to fight and battle police brutality. That's what it was about. That's what the Stonewall riots were about. So this is not just a black issue. This is an intersectional issue. If you are LGBTQIA, you better get up and in this fight, because we know what it's like. And if you're not black and you don't know what it's like to be killed because you're black, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. So everyone needs to be speaking out about why these protests are happening to begin with. Period. And stop.
Yeah. And keep in mind, this is our taxpayer dollars at work. So I know that when I get my paycheck, there's a huge chunk taken out. So this is being done in our name, right? So if you're not comfortable with this being done on your name, you have the right to speak up, right? I don't want my taxes being used to kill people. And I think that we can say that that's true across groups, right? We have the right to speak up as taxpayers, as citizens, and say, hey, person who I voted for to represent me, defend me from state-sponsored violence.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and Ebony, I think you mentioned this, or Selena mentioned it. I can't remember which one of you, but you asked, like, where's Kellyanne Conway? And Kellyanne Conway mentioned something, I think yesterday, that the violence helps Trump. They welcome the violence. So let's make no mistake here that the people who are in charge are welcoming this violence in Donald Trump's America. As we talked about, it is happening today in his America. This is not some kind of time machine, travel idea around what it's going to be like when Joe Biden's president. Joe Biden was vice president for 8 years. This shit didn't happen in Joe Biden and Barack Obama's America. It happens now. We are seeing it now, and nothing's changing.
Yeah, and Governor Wheeler of Portland made this point as well. Mr. Trump, you are the reason for this violence, and also we haven't had violence like this in decades in the United States. So what's the common thread? You're president. It's your president. There's a Twitter group called Trump Students that's going a little viral right now because of a ridiculous post that they posted of Donald Trump visiting a hurricane damaged site and saying
he was visiting Kenosha.
Oh, was it Kenosha?
He was visiting the site of the riots in Kenosha.
Okay, so there's a picture that they're circulating saying a preview of Donald Trump, of Joe Biden's America.
Yeah.
Like literally the president of the United States is in the photograph. He is the current president. This through line is idiotic.
Oh, I know.
It's ridiculous. So everyone, hashtag Trump's America. Anytime. Fight this messaging. If you're watching this, fight this messaging. Hashtag Trump's America, Trump violence. Put it out there.
And it seems like they took a page. I think I recall someone hearing that, like, that was sort of Nixon's MO, is that he was like,
law and order.
Like law and order. You're not safe in LBJ's America, because 1968 was oil. But it's like, but Nixon at least could say, I'm not president, I am a change. I mean, it's just bizarre that they're using this old Nixon talking point that does not apply to an incumbency. I mean, it's so dumb. And I really like that Biden is shooting straight of like, no, this is Donald Trump's America, where there is a bloodbath and where there is chaos and discord by the president is all Donald Trump's.
I don't agree with this person who I'm about to quote at all. In fact, I think he may be the devil. But Ronald Reagan in 1980 said right before Election Day, ask yourselves right now, is your life better than it was 4 years ago? Which is a question I ask a lot of people. I wonder what those responses are if we just kind of break it down and ask that question. Is your life better than it was 4 years ago? Is your life calmer than it was 4 years ago? Like, let's really look into that, because right now we have somebody who's in charge who's not doing the work. And, and it's, we have to wrap that up and take ourselves out of Donald Trump's America. God, I wish we could. And we're hoping that we can in 63 days. So it is time for us to, let's just real quick, keep it cool, kid. Young Joe Biden. We're with him.
Yeah. I just ordered a tank top with that hot young Joe Biden image on it, and I can't wait to wear it around.
That's perfect.
I'm all about the merch. I'm all about merch.
Yeah. I feel that I'm cursed with merch, so I don't. So I am not purchasing a shirt.
Oh, nice. Good bumper sticker. Good bumper sticker.
Guys, it's time to open the library where we go on a rant. We are almost out of time, so I'm sorry that we don't have that much time. But I want to get to everybody with their rants. The library is open. I'm going to start with Ebony.
My rant today is directed towards enthusiasm bashers. That is what I'm going to call them. So these are the people who go, nobody is enthusiastic about Biden-Harris. And these same people did the same thing about Clinton-Kaine in 2016. They forced everybody into these secret groups. So it's not going to happen in 2020. I am enthusiastic. I've got the merch. I've got the bumper stickers. I am posting articles. I am donating. I am telling my friends to vote. I'm amped about this ticket, and I'm not going to let the enthusiasm bashers tell me that nobody is enthusiastic. We're enthusiastic. We're voting. We've got Joe. We've got Kamala. We're going to do this, okay? So do not let the enthusiasm bashers make you feel ashamed for being excited about this ticket. We're excited about the ticket. We're excited about getting Trump out. I'm enthusiastic. You're enthusiastic. Let's go.
Yes, thank you. I am fucking pumped for this ticket. I screamed and jumped up when Kamala was announced as vice president. I cried and I shook for like hours. That's so great. It's such a great ticket. It is two wonderful Americans, and my God, we need that again. So thank you, Ebony. We will be. This is an enthusiastic safe space right here, and I'm really excited that we are able to talk about this every week. So next on the rant list, I'm going to go over to Alex. I want you breathe the sigh of relief. I feel like you have something big to get off your chest.
One. I was like, I've bitched about everyone already. A topic we haven't covered tonight is the director of national intelligence, John Radcliffe, who announced during the weekend that he will no longer provide in-person briefings to Congress about attempts to subvert our democracy by foreign powers, namely Russia. Very important to note that this is also coming at a time where there is evidence that the Russians have amped up their misinformation campaign in a very sophisticated way. They've recruited Western journalists unwitting. So I'm not saying these journalists are Russian agents, but these journalists to propagate their messaging using fake websites and then distributing it through Facebook groups and Twitter groups that they create so that far left and progressive people parrot. And I have heard this messaging. The messaging very specifically is about Kamala Harris not having a platform and being she's not can't be held to a standard because she's never stood for anything. That kind of messaging, subtle, subversive messaging aimed at people on our side. On our side. Same kind of messaging they used to split the progressive vote for Hillary Clinton. As we know, 77,000 votes decided the 2016 presidential election in 3 states. And you cannot tell me that the people that decided to sit home and not vote, that some of them weren't the third party voters who were disenfranchised by Hillary because they thought she wasn't progressive enough and she's a corporate shill. That same messaging is being used now. It's being used against Joe Biden. Everyone should be very conscious. Facebook and Twitter just blocked, I guess, a couple Facebook groups today. There was an announcement today, but the Russian misinformation campaign is alive and well. The Trump administration doesn't want you to know about it. They're not going to give Congress briefings about it. There's evidence that voter rolls have been hacked in Michigan and that the data on Michigan voters is being sold on the Russian dark web. This is reported, not conspiracy theory. And it's so troubling that people call this conspiracy or conspiracist when it's just well-reported fact. So our democracy is under attack. Everybody, iwillvote.com, stonewall.vote. Get your voting plan ready. It is time that this is really, and I'm not being alarmist. We have one last chance to save our democracy. This is it. I'm the child of immigrants who traveled to this country, who escaped authoritarianism and oppressive theocratic rule. And I know, and what people who traveled here to escape countries that are authoritarian and fascist, what we all know, what we all see with our own 2 eyes, is that it's happening now. It's happening here. It's being aided by foreign powers that would like to end westernized democracy for their own benefit. And it's happening right before our very eyes. November is the very last stand for democracy itself. Please, iwillvote.com, stonewall.vote. Get your plan ready. We have to turn out in numbers they simply cannot deny. That's my read for the week.
I will say also your mother expressed that she was very proud of you. And so I want to say hello.
Hi, Mom.
At first we were talking about like the Trump family and that kind of came up and I was like, what? and then I realized that it's Alex's mom. So
It's my mom.
glad that she's watching tonight. Selena, do you have a read that you'd like to give?
Yes. Well, Ebony, I loved what you said, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I always think, I mean, it's part of why I love buying merch. Like, I think it's good to wear your t-shirts, wear your pins, show your enthusiasm, and not hide it under a bushel. You know what I mean? Like, I also think, like, I just have no time for people who are like, Biden wasn't my guy. I wanted, like, your options right now are Biden, Harris, or literal death. That's what we got. So, like, get on board this train or you're voting for literal death. And I just, like, I don't have a lot of time for people who want to sort of, relitigate the primary and, what they felt was fair or who got more attention or who didn't. This is what it is right now, okay? The Democratic Party has spoken, and Biden is the nominee, and Kamala is his wonderful VP. So let's board and break out our koozies and pins. Like, I'm riding with Biden, and we all need to save our lives.
Yes, it is Biden or death, and I am gonna.
Jonathan,
What?
do you think before because we're about to sign out, do you think if we could go over just like a minute or two tonight and I close out by reading something that I think is really important for people?
Absolutely. I was going to give my library read, though.
Oh, shit. Okay, you go. Sorry.
So, no, that's okay. But I definitely want to kick it over to you. Mine's going to be pretty quick. There's another race that's happening tonight in Massachusetts. And I have been following that. Unfortunately, the candidate that I cared about in that race, it's the 1st congressional district in Western Massachusetts, has been declared. He is not the winner. A young gay mayor from Holyoke, Massachusetts, ran to unseat a 30-year incumbent who often sides with the more conservative portion of our government. He is one of Trump's favorite Democrats, Richie Neal. And Alex Morse, who I remember from my days in the Young Democrats back in Massachusetts when I was much younger, 31 years old, a gay man. People in the Democratic Party in Massachusetts who may or may not be connected to Neal's campaign tried to exploit Morse's sexuality and essentially made it so that it seemed as though he was preying on university students where he's an adjunct professor, which is simply not true. Essentially, it was weaponizing a queer person's sexuality against them. There are a number of very talented queer people who should have a place in American politics who are pushed out, who are afraid that things like this are going to happen by people who are supposed to be our allies. So shame on Richie Neal, the old who is going back to Congress because unfortunately this smear campaign worked in this case, but I think Alex Morse has a future ahead of him. I hope that he tries again because we need to sniff out the people who are supposed to be on our side and expose them for who they are. So unfortunately, we're seeing Neal going back to Congress. I wish that it went the other way, but we need to keep an eye on that, and we need to get the backs of our fellow LGBTQ people in politics. That's my read. So Alex, I'm going to give it over to you.
Well, look, I just think while we're on this topic, it'd be important to like close out on something that I want to read. This is something I wrote for the Huffington Post. I'm not going to read the whole article, but if anyone's interested, it's called A Tale of Two Marches. And while we're on the topic of authoritarianism and what it means for our country, just if it could have you for 60 seconds. Just days after the country's new government assumed power, hundreds of thousands of women took to the streets to march in protest. The unprecedented demonstrations erupted as a result of rumors that the new regime plans to implement anti-women laws, despite having risen to power under the guise of a populist, nationalist message that promised to drain the swamp, so to speak, of the nation's elitist forces, excesses, and perceived corruption. Indeed, the power dynamics of the country had suddenly shifted in a surprising conservative backlash, fueled by support among uneducated working-class males and aided by a fractured left wing composed of socialists, social democrats, and liberals who failed to take the threat of a potentially fascist new government seriously. Many citizens simply felt it was impossible until it became inevitable. After the dust settled, critics alleged that vote rigging and the dissemination of fake news had helped usher in the new administration and produce a conservative-controlled legislature that would act as a safety net. Faced now with the undoing of 70 years of hard-fought advancements for women, a concerned citizenry found themselves marching in the Capitol. Freedom is universal, they chanted, while others carried homemade signs and banners reading variations of "We will not go backwards." No, this is not the story of the Women's March on Washington, D.C. The time, 1979. The place, Iran. The new leader, the Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. And I just wanted to close this out with that.
Guys, I swear, we have to do everything we can in the next 63 days, everything and then some. So join us here every Tuesday night so that we can talk about what we can do, how we can take action, and let's spread as much equally balanced fear and positivity as we possibly can.
Sorry, I ended up on a down note.
Right.
I thought it was
No, I think it's...
No, it was great and important. And oh my gosh. Wow.
It was very important. Before we go, Selena, as our special guest, how do we find you out in the world?
Yes, I'm on Twitter and Insta, and it's all just my full name. So SelenaCoppock. More well known by my NYT vows. I have a Twitter and an Insta where I put the New York Times wedding section. And I mostly make fun of rich people and the TVOWS.
And I think you cut out, but it's at NYTVOWS. It is a very, very funny Twitter account. I love it. Listen, Selena Coppock, it was great having you. Thanks to Ebony Murphy-Root and Alex Mohajer. I'm Jonathan Welch. The Read Down has been a production of the Stonewall Democratic Club. You can join the Stonewall Democratic Club for as little as $25 a year. Check us out at stonewalldems.org if you want to find out what we're up to between now and Election Day and how you can help. You can also check us out at stonewall.vote for more information on our National Vote at Home initiative. Check us out again on the Read Down every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. You can also check out our podcast that drops on Wednesdays, wherever podcasts are found. And thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.